We're live.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Keren Dolan. I am a mentor and a CNS supervisor here with TNHC. And today I want to chat with you all about this idea around trauma-informed care and ways that we can find ways to break through sometimes when we hit barriers in dealing with patients or clients who are having significant trauma. So one of the things that I think comes up often is questions around compliance. So we often will encounter situations where clients will say they really want to do something, they're really committed to a plan, and then each visit they come back and haven't really made much progress. And sometimes this really frustrates clinicians who feel like maybe this is just not a compliant person, maybe this is not a good fit for my practice. And actually, sometimes that can be due to trauma, that someone that might have a limited capacity, right? And that's the word that I want to use as we're talking about this is capacity, because we often will talk about readiness to change or willingness to change. And you can have both of those things, but still have a limited capacity. So let's think from a trauma perspective. If you had someone who had just been in a car accident and they're fine, they know they're fine, and they're kind of figuring out what to do next, at that point, you would not say, well, here's a plan to kind of reorient your life, right? You would instead kind of work on really helping them to feel heard and seen and know they're okay, right? Same thing if someone's like encountered a bear, right? Even though they're fine, just the cascade of biochemicals that are going through their body with that bear encounter, it's not a good time to discuss supplements, right? So most of the time when you see someone, it's not right after that. It could be like someone just had an issue on their way to your office or just before the meeting. But other times it's something that's happened in the past that started to resolve, okay? It's kind of resolved, but there's still some lingering effects, okay? Kind of like when there are too many windows open on your computer. And if that ever happens to you, maybe that's just Windows users, and it kind of freezes up and it tells you there are not enough resources to really do what you want to do right now. So this is what I mean when I'm talking about capacity, okay? And it's beyond the cognitive concepts of like locus of control. It's really, and it oftentimes people might not even perceive that they're dealing with a limited capacity, okay? So when you have someone that comes in kind of carrying this weight in their nervous system, how do you actually kind of read into the situation and make recommendations that can stick? Okay. And one of the words that we often use in kind of the somatic world or somatic experiencing world is titration. Titration. When we titrate things, and we might think of titration, if you're an herbalist, titrating up doses like on a tincture or something like that. But we also can titrate our recommendations. And there's really no limit to how far we can go with that titration. Titration is where we introduce things in bits in a way that a person can begin to organize around it, to really start to change behavior, but in a way that fits within that individual's capacity for change, okay? So one example might be vegetables. So say you want to encourage someone who's dealing with maybe limited capacity due to trauma to add in 8 to 10 servings of vegetables a day. And the person's with you in the meeting, they're like, yeah, that sounds really great. And then the next visit, come back, and the person has not gotten anywhere near that. Okay. So there might be a sense of frustration, maybe not the first time, maybe the second time. If there is a risk there that the person might feel like, I know I really want to do this. I'm on board with this. I just feel like I can't get it done. And that right there, we're on a precipice where we can kind of move into a direction where we're kind of compounding maybe shame and a fear of failure, or we can move into a direction where we're empowering people and normalizing it. Yeah, for some reason, sometimes it's just difficult to jump in and add in like 8 to 10 servings of vegetables, especially when you have a lot that you might be processing or managing in the background. So why don't we try, 2 to 4 servings? Okay. This is still pretty standard. A lot of you might be doing this already. But what happens when you try 2 to 4 servings, or even get down to 1 serving of vegetables a day, and you're still not seeing that this person is able to actually implement that change? It seems really basic. They really want to, and you're frustrated. So this is where titration can become a little bit more creative, right? So if you're in a session with someone, either in person or virtually, you could have serving a vegetable together in your session. Let's just do it when we meet. We're meeting once a week. Let's just do it then. And we'll be creative about what we'll do each time. We'll pick something different together. Or another way you could do it might be to have the person actually start imagining, like whatever they're doing, whatever they're eating, whenever they sit down to a meal, what vegetable might I have with this? If I'd gotten to the grocery store and had time to prepare it, maybe they could be creative about just imagining that. And it sounds like, well, that's not going to make a big difference, but it really can, because it starts to work its way into the process. It starts to get through the fog, and it gives a person access to changing their behavior without it overburdening their nervous system of feeling like, oh my gosh, if I don't do this thing that I committed to right now, I'm a failure, right? So this idea of titration, you might have a completely different idea. It might be looking at pictures of vegetables. It might be going to a farm market or visiting a farm and just starting to have a relationship with vegetables. But just imagine that there's no limit to what you can create. And as long as you understand that person, different people might have things that appeal to them more than others. So you figuring out ways that in your therapeutic relationship, you can communicate and they can hear it, and they can be more, it's easier for them to connect. Like maybe it's a person talks a lot about their feelings. Like, I really feel, I love this, I hate this. This was a great time for me. I felt so empowered. Anyone who communicates in that way, you can bring in vegetables in that way. How does this vegetable how do you feel when you eat this vegetable? If it's someone who is really an artistic personality, just loves art, how do you feel, or what do you notice? What do you like about the way this vegetable looks, right? So this is an opportunity for you to just practice thinking of how this might not be a compliance issue, but it could be capacity. And then ways that you can change your approach and change your strategy to titrate your recommendations and allow someone to be able to have those successes that will build and build and build until they're at their 8 to 10 servings of vegetables a day. Okay, well, I hope this helps. Thanks so much and have a great day.